In May of 1921, a body was found in a ravine in northern Oklahoma. Her name was Anna Brown. She was Osage. She had been shot in the back of the head. The case went unsolved. 2 months later, her mother died at home after a long, unexplained illness. 2 years later, her cousin Henry Roan was shot dead in a car. Then her sister Rita, Rita's husband, and their housekeeper were killed when their house was blown up at 2 in the morning. One sister was left. Her name was Mollie Burkhart, and she was also being killed, slowly, and she did not know it. She was diabetic. 2 local doctors were giving her insulin injections. She got worse every week she took them. Because of what was under their land, the Osage in 1921 were, per capita, the wealthiest people in the world. When the tribe was forced onto that reservation, it kept the mineral rights. Then oil was found under all of it. Every enrolled member held a share of the oil income, called a headright. It could not be sold. It could only be inherited. Read that again, because it is the whole case. You could not buy one. You could only inherit one. Congress then decided the Osage could not manage their own money and assigned them white guardians who controlled their spending. Between 1921 and 1926, at least 24 Osage were murdered. Historians now think the real figure is far higher, and the man who had married Mollie Burkhart was the nephew of the man arranging it. Osage County, Oklahoma, 1921 to 1926. A cattleman who called himself the King of the Osage Hills. At least 24 murders, 3 men convicted. Everything else left where it fell. If you are new here, this is Cold Case Redemption. This is the hardest episode we have made. Subscribe and stay with me, and we will name the people it happened to. The Osage were moved to that corner of Oklahoma in the 1870s, onto land nobody else wanted. Rocky, broken, no good for farming. They bought it outright, and their leaders insisted on a clause keeping the mineral rights for the tribe collectively. That clause is why this story exists. By 1920, the annual royalty payments were enormous. Boomtowns went up overnight. Money came in faster than anyone could spend it, and the country reacted to wealthy Native Americans exactly as you would expect it to. Newspapers ran mocking stories about Osage spending. Congress passed a law in 1921 requiring guardians for Osage of half or more Indian blood. So, a grown woman with an income of tens of thousands of dollars a year had to go to a white lawyer in town and ask permission to spend it. Guardians took fees, guardians overcharged, guardians married into families, and guardians were extremely well placed to know exactly who would inherit what. Mollie Kyle was a full-blood Osage woman with 3 sisters and a mother, and between them, the family held a great many headrights. She married a white man named Ernest Burkhart, who had come to the county as a driver and who was the nephew of the biggest cattleman in the district. That uncle was William Hale. He spoke Osage. He gave to charities. He was a reserve deputy sheriff. Everyone in Fairfax called him a friend of the Indians. Anna Brown was the eldest sister. She was shot in May of 1921 and left in a ravine. The undertaker found the bullet wound. The county investigation went nowhere and was closed. Her mother, Lizzie, died about 60 days later, at home, in Mollie and Ernest's house. Poison was suspected and never proved. By then, Lizzie held 4 headrights, having inherited from a dead husband and 2 dead daughters. All of it flowed on down. In early 1923, Henry Roan was found shot in the front seat of his car in a ravine. William Hale held a $25,000 life insurance policy on Henry Roan and had taken it out himself. He was the beneficiary. He collected. Nobody in that county asked a serious question about it for 3 years. On the 10th of March, 1923, at 2 in the morning, the house where Mollie's sister Rita lived was destroyed by nitroglycerin. Rita Smith, her husband Bill, and their housekeeper, Nettie Brookshire, were killed. Bill Smith lived several days and said nothing useful. In under 2 years, Mollie Burkhart lost her mother, both her sisters, a brother-in-law, and a cousin, and she was ill. She was getting weaker. 2 doctors in Fairfax were treating her, and the treatment was making it worse. The Osage Tribal Council knew perfectly well what was happening. They passed resolutions. They hired private detectives. They raised money. In 1922, a man named Barney McBride traveled to Washington to demand a federal investigation. He was killed there. An attorney named W. W. Vaughn, who said he had information, was thrown from a train on the way to Oklahoma City. Private investigators hired by the tribe took the money and produced nothing, and several of them were working for the other side. The local law was not going to solve this because a significant part of the local law was in it. The doctors who certified the deaths, the undertakers who prepared the bodies, the sheriff, the guardians, and the cattleman all lived in the same few square miles and knew each other. In 1925, the tribe finally got the attention of the Bureau of Investigation in Washington, which was 2 years old and had a new director. The man sent to run it was Tom White, a former Texas Ranger. He put undercover agents into that county as cattle buyers and insurance men. In January of 1926, warrants were issued for William Hale and Ernest Burkhart. Burkhart confessed. He named John Ramsey as the man who shot Henry Roan and Kelsey Morrison as the man who shot Anna Brown, and he named his uncle as the man who had arranged all of it. He also confirmed the shape of it. He had been steered toward marrying Mollie so that when her family died, the headrights would come to him, and through him to Hale. In June of 1926, Ernest Burkhart pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life imprisonment. Mollie Burkhart sat through it. She had been ostracized by both communities during the investigation. Her 4-year-old daughter died during the trial. She learned in a courtroom that the man she had been married to for years had conspired in the murder of her mother and both her sisters. Hale and Ramsey were tried repeatedly. There were deadlocked juries, an overturned verdict, and a Supreme Court ruling on jurisdiction before it stuck. In October of 1926, both were convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life. Kelsey Morrison received a life sentence for Anna Brown. All three were eventually paroled over the objections of the Osage Nation. Ernest Burkhart was released in 1959 and pardoned in 1966. 3 convictions. That is the total. The other deaths in that county in those years, the poisonings, the shootings, the ones written off as alcohol or illness, were never prosecuted at all. Nobody knows the true number. Estimates run past 60. Many families never learned what happened to their relatives. Mollie Burkhart divorced Ernest Burkhart, remarried, had her legal competency restored, and died in 1937. She was about 50. The Osage Nation is still there. The headright system is still there. Descendants of these families still hold shares in that oil. Guardians who had looted estates were, for the most part, never charged with anything, and their families kept what they took. Here is what I keep coming back to. This was not a killer. It was a business model executed by a community over 5 years in a place where everyone knew everyone. It worked because the law made an Osage life worth more dead than alive to the white people nearest to it. That was not an accident of the law. It was the design of it. Anna Brown, Lizzie Kyle, Henry Roan, Rita Smith, Bill Smith, Nettie Brookshire, Charles Whitehorn, Barney McBride, W. W. Vaughn, and the ones whose names were never written down anywhere because nobody in that county was writing them down. Most of this case was never solved and never will be. If this one stayed with you, share it and say the names. Subscribe to Cold Case Redemption, a new case every week. I will see you in the next one.